Welcome into the lounge presented by DraftKings. We have the pleasure of sitting down with Ravens rookie Tavius Robinson. Tavius, we got to start here. All right, so we got to get into your hockey background. Okay, so you're from Canada, so obviously you played hockey. Obviously, right? We got the story from Eric DaCosta. Can you tell us your side of the story about being a hockey goalie?
I'm going to be honest with you. When I first saw that story, I saw the Instagram and I was watching and I was like, what? Like, this is not me. Like, what are we talking about
Did they draft a different guy?
I was so confused. And then all of a sudden I saw it and I was dying laughing. And then I showed my family and they were dying laughing. And, yeah, it was funny.
Oh, so good. Yeah, he got us. I mean, you know, I won't lie. Like, when you're from the States and you think of Canada, you think of hockey. So when he started going into it, I was hook, line, and sinker. I was like, what? He was a sick goalie?
Bro, he had got my agent, too. Like, my agent texted me. He was like, what? Like, how did I never know about this? And I was like, no, you got to keep watching the video.
That makes me feel a little better.
He texted mid-video.
Yeah, because a lot of people are giving me a hard time. Like, come on, you fell for that? Like, 6'7" goalie who went to played football in the Deep South? Like, come on now. No way. But at least your agent fell for it, too, so that makes me feel a little better about it.
Yeah, no. For sure.
Did you ever play hockey?
Never. No.
Never in your life? Can you skate?
I can skate, yeah. Just hockey, no, was never for me.
Okay.
So you grew up in Gulf, right?
Guelph is
Guelph. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's life like there? This is about an hour away from Toronto. So
it's a small town. It's a university town. I went to the university there too. So basically was there my whole life until I went to Ole Miss. But small town, good people there. It's growing now, so it's a lot. Every time I come back, it's a lot bigger than I remember. But yeah, just a good town overall for sure.
And it's not too far from where Brent Urban grew up, right?
No, I believe he's from Mississauga, like around the Toronto area, so like literally 45 minutes. And then, I was talking to him the other day, and actually his sister went to Guelph, like the same university I did. So I'm not sure at what time, but same university that I went to.
So are you and Herb hitting it off? And how many like A's do you drop when you're talking to him versus everybody else?
I haven't heard any from him, but no, we definitely been talking a lot. Just because he was like one of the I think he was like the 26th or 25th Canadian ever drafted.
Okay.
So it's been good to get knowledge from him as a vet, and not only in football, but then the stuff that comes with being on a visa and all that background type stuff. So.
What number are you?
I don't even know.
Okay.
Look, I think we're in the 70s now.
Okay.
Well, there's a record number of Canadians drafted this year, right?
There was.
Yeah. So I mean,
that was big.
Yeah, that's gotta be cool. What did that mean to you?
So much. I mean, there was guys before us that us as Canadians we all looked up to. They was because the number's small and there's so many great Canadian football players, but I just feel like it's harder for us to get the chance. And now as the number's growing, it's just good to see. So it's good, and it's good to like set the standard for the kids who look up to us now, and let them live out their dreams as we did. So,
were there any Canadian football players that you in particular looked up to, other than your uncle?
Yeah, Neville Gallimore, Jesse Luketa, guys like that were Canadians who went and played D1. So those guys, kind of guys I looked up to, and then they did it before me, and then
Nice.
So when you were growing up, like what sports did you play? Football. When did you start playing football?
Around 10 or 11, so kind of at a young age. And then I played basketball in high school, and I did track in high school as well. So those were kind of my three main sports I played.
So you just talked about the guys that you looked up to. I'm curious, like, was the idea of playing NFL football, like, for a lot of kids in America, that's the dream. Like, was that your dream or not?
Yeah, no, 100% it was my dream. I just knew it was going to be a harder path, like on the path that I was taking. But, like, at my university school, for example, like we have all of the CFL helmets on the wall, and then we have an NFL helmet with like no names on it. So like every time I would walk by that wall, I would touch the NFL helmet and then my uncle's name, and like just because I knew I always wanted to play in the NFL. I knew it was gonna be hard, like if I stayed at Guelph for those whole years, because obviously the film's not the same, but it's what I wanted for sure. So
wow, so you like that was something that you like manifested, that like you would touch that helmet every day, and that you wanted to be sitting here. So I got to believe when that moment happens, like there's probably every player feels that excitement, that emotion, but like for you, it's kind of a long path to get to this point. Like what was that moment like when you became an NFL player?
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy moment. All the work led up to this point. But for me, I'm very like in the moment. Like I'm here now, but now I got so much more to do, so much more to learn. But it was definitely a great moment and something that I had set my goals high from a young age. As soon as I got to Guelph, wanted to be there, and getting here is great. And then now I gotta excel here and set higher goals. So yeah.
So I want to back up a little bit. You said you started playing when you were like 10, 11 years old. Who was it that first introduced you to football?
really just kind of seeing the pictures around my house. Like my dad played football, and then my uncle obviously played in the CFL. So seeing those pictures, I wanted to play at a young age. My parents were great getting me into it, and then I fell in love with the game right away. So,
but in Canada, is it like, you know, I feel like a lot of players, like Zay was like, oh, 5 years old, I started playing football, full pads. Blah, blah, blah. You know, is it like just later in Canada that generally kids get a little bit of a later start, or?
It's a little bit later. Yeah, I think it kind of starts off with like flag and all that stuff, but I went straight into contact as soon as I could.
Right. Yeah, and your uncle played for the Ottawa Rough Riders, right? And he was a DB for 10 years in the CFL. So, like, was he somebody that you always kind of, like, looked up to him, and you're like, all right, you know, I think I can get to that level?
Most definitely. Him, and then my dad was also a great football player in high school, but he didn't have the grades, or, like he had to go to work right away, so he didn't have the chance to you know, play university football and eventually go on. But
gotcha.
Yeah, so my uncle actually went to the same university I did as well, way before me. So yeah, seeing that, you know, maybe know that it's something I wanted to do, and then that's how I got into it at a young age. So
gotcha.
When you first sign up, did you always go defensive end, outside linebacker, pass rusher? Like, was that the initial position? Were you just terrorizing guys out there on the field? Like, what was that first practice like for you?
Yeah, so my very first position was actually O-tackle. So I played tackle and then middle linebacker.
So you've seen both sides of this.
And linebacker?
And linebacker,
okay.
Yeah. And then eventually I moved to just linebacker, and then eventually I moved to the edge, and then that kind of became my permanent position around probably like grade 9, I'd say.
Okay.
And then played, once I got to my older years in high school, that was middle linebacker, but yeah.
Were you always the big kid? Were you like always kicking butt out there?
Yeah, I was always the big kid, for sure, always the tallest. But I was skinny at one point in time, like very skinny and tall, but eventually that caught up. So
you filled out. So walk me through the recruiting process when you're in high school and wanting to go to college. Like, what was that recruiting process like?
Yeah, so it's very similar to how it is here. But all the Canadian schools, you know, they come out, they watch your games, they take you on official visits, but it's just not to the same scale. So, like, for example, a full scholarship in Canada is $4,500 off of your tuition, which isn't a whole lot. So, like, guys in Canada in the summers, like, we have to work jobs to pay for the upcoming school year and that type of thing. So it's the same recruiting process in the sense that coaches are talking to you, you're going on visits, but it's just not at the same scale as it is here. So.
And did you know, like, all right, I want to stay in Canada? Like, did you at that point where you're coming out of high school, did you consider
were there
trying
any colleges that were from the States that were recruiting you at that time, or?
Yeah, so that's kind of the thing. Like, having high school film in Canada, it's not as, like, obviously the film is not as high quality as high school film here. So coaches, like, kind of look at that film and they don't they don't see it as good of, like, you're not playing against great talent as they compare it. So obviously I wanted to play D1. That was my goal, but, like, the film just, it wasn't going anywhere. I mean, I was dominating the film, but it was just, they looked at it and, like, it wasn't. And yeah, so
I bet there's a lot of coaches around the country that are like, man, we missed out on this one. Like, I mean, seriously, like, I think that, like, you end up, and then you end up obviously ending up in the NFL, but you don't get zero offers from the States coming out of high school.
Yeah, zero. Yeah. Wow.
And was that something that, like, did that bother you? Did you care? I also got to believe, like, an element of it too is, like, going to the States would be a big transition for a kid, you know, moving further away. So, like, was part of you glad to stay in Canada, or were you ticked off that you didn't get any offers? Like, what was your mindset at that time?
Yeah, I think I just took it with, okay, I'm not, like, I knew that I wasn't going to get any, so I said, okay, I'm going to go here, I'm going to dominate, do everything I can to be the best player, and, like, I feel like at every level you have to do something different to separate yourself. So that's what I did at that level. I had to separate myself, and then that's kind of what led to me. You know, when the Ole Miss opportunity came, when COVID happened, I was ready for that opportunity because I had, you know, taken the moment that I was in and just made the best out of it. So,
Yeah. So you started at the University of Guelph. That's where you ultimately went for college. And all right, I got to know, you said you had to work jobs in the summer. Like, what jobs were you working during the summer?
So my very first one going into university, like while I was in high school, was Tim Hortons. So it's like
it's good
Tim
stuff.
Hortons, yeah. And then once I got to university, I was landscaping in the summer. So I was like building patios, all that type of stuff.
Nice.
So it was like,
if you ever want to do some more,
I got some work in my house I can have it.
Yeah, but no, it was like 6 to 5 landscaping, then go get my workout in, and then, you know, come home, eat quickly, go to sleep, do it all over again. And then right before I got the Ole Miss offer, I got a job with the 1-800-GOT-JUNK. So I was, getting ready to get the trucks and go and drive and pick up junk and stuff for money. And then the Ole Miss offer came, and then I was gone on a plane in the next couple of days. So.
That's crazy. Yeah. So like COVID happened, and that just your football season got canceled. That like changed everything for you. Not a lot of people, but COVID sucked, obviously. But you could say like this changed your life in a positive direction because it just sent you totally in a different direction. Like, can you take me through your mindset of what happened? When you're in quarantine and like you decided to make that change and go for it, in the States.
Yeah, most definitely. So when it happened, again, like me, I lived with a great group of guys. Like me and my roommates were all very hard workers, very, like I was saying earlier, like tried to separate ourselves. It was quarantine. We were all working out. We had a garage, a deck workout. We had all the stuff set up, whatever. And then, it kind of hit me like not like, and they brought up to me too, like now's your chance to leave because of this, like I wouldn't have to sit out a year. So,
right.
I made my highlight tape and then sent it out everywhere I could. And then from there, got the Ole Miss offer and again, just changed my life. But I was ready for the opportunity when it came, for sure. So.
Right. I mean, you had offers from like LSU and like was there any part of that? Like when you get those offers so fast like that, were you like, dang, I could have done this like 2 years ago? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it all came very fast. But
like, were you expecting that when you sent the tape out? Were you thinking, oh yeah, some big LSU Ole Miss, they're going to be offering me?
Truthfully, no, because, some of the first schools I reached out to were smaller schools and they would only offer me like PW, like walk-on spots.
Yeah.
So I was like, I didn't even know. And I still was going to do that over anything. But then once that first big Ole Miss offer came, then all of a sudden, LSU came in and other schools started coming in. And I just felt like Ole Miss was the best fit. They were the first one who believed in me from the start. So went there and yeah.
That's awesome. So it's kind of a domino effect. It's like everybody starts like, hey, everyone else starts finding out, like, wait, maybe we should take a second look at this guy. The thing that stands out to me about that story is that you were sending out the tape. Like,
right.
And like that to me showed that like you wanted this. Like are you literally emailing recruiting coordinators, coaches, and saying, take a look? Like, I'm Tavius Robinson. Here's my tape. Blah blah blah.
Most definitely. Me, I had a huge list of emails and Twitters, and I was sending it. But I also had some help. Like there was a CFL older GM. His name was Eric Tillman. And he kind of helped me as well because he knew it was something I wanted to do. He was a family friend, so he helped me kind of send it out to everyone he knew as well. But yeah, we had a list, and I was checking off the list, sending, doing whatever I could because it's what I wanted to do for sure.
Did you make the video yourself too?
I did, yeah, on my laptop.
Man, a Many Skills video editor. Yeah. We can hire you in the digital media department too, man.
Video editor, landscaper.
You do it all. Junk out of my basement.
You want to do it all. I gotta believe that like when you're talking to teams, like one thing that stood out to me with this draft class as a whole for the Ravens, you guys have some really cool stories. And we always say like during the draft when we're like making our mock drafts, trying to figure it out, like Ravens love good stories. And like to me, like that, like your path showed how badly you wanted it. And like it wasn't handed to you. You had to work for it. You literally had to, you had to knock on the door of these coaches to get an offer, basically. And like that just to me showed that you kind of how badly you want it. So when you go to Ole Miss, what's that culture shock like? Like you left in a matter of days, right? You packed up the car and then you're gone. So like, what is that culture shock like when you get down there? Yeah,
it was definitely a big culture shock. Again, it was like my first time basically outside of Canada, like going to this. It was my first time ever in the South, so it was different. The weather was completely different to what I was used to. So I remember like, my first workout, I could barely breathe. I was like, ha. But then, that came. But no, the people there were very friendly, the Southern hospitality, and then the team was just great. Like it felt like family right away. The guys welcomed me in. And to this day, I still have so many close friends from that team. So it was a great opportunity for sure.
When you think about making the decision to come to the States and packing up or whatever and leaving your 1-800-GOT-JUNK job to being drafted in the NFL, is that wild for you? Or is it more, I knew this was always my destiny. I knew I was going to get here.
I knew, to be honest with you, like it's not wild to me. And I think a lot of people think it's wild to me, but it's not. Like it's just it's like, again, going back to the Guelph story, always touching that helmet. Like I knew it's what I wanted to do, and I knew I had to separate myself at every level to do that, and I just stayed consistent to get where I wanted to be. So
right, and I hear there's another big body wide receiver coming out of Canada that you should. So scouts missed on you. Tell us about this big wide receiver coming out.
Yeah, so my brother, I mean, he's like every time I see him, he's taller and taller and taller. We're like, his eyes are almost above me now.
Dang.
Just fast receiver. Again, a great player, great mindset, hard worker. I think he might eventually be a tight end, but I mean, yeah, he's going to be a baller for sure.
So this is advance notice. Tell the scouts, D1 programs, if you missed on one,
most definitely.
Here's your chance,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
But I mean, does it make you feel cool to, you're repping Canada and like, and there are more players coming from Canada. Like, does that mean that, is that a badge of honor for you kind of that you carry forward?
Most definitely. It means so much, again, because there's so much talent in Canada and so many kids up there, who look up to us and want to do the same things as us. So it's important for us to keep raising that bar every year and setting the example for the younger kids. So
at what point did you realize when you got to the SEC, like, I can hang?
Literally like the first or second practice, I started making plays right away. And that was one thing my uncle said, like, when you go there, don't see yourself as the Canadian, don't see yourself as low or lesser. So I went in with that mindset, and literally the first, second practice, started making plays like, yeah, I belong here. I've been belonged here. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
What is it like now in an NFL? I mean, it's not really a full practice yet, but so far, do you step out on that field and say, all right, I can hang. I can hang here in this level? Most
definitely, especially this week as the days have gone on. I've been getting more and more comfortable. And then today was one of the first days we did like our full speed walkthroughs with the vets. And again, like I feel myself getting more comfortable every day. So again, going back to what we were talking about, like I do feel like there's just so much room for growth, and I think my game is going to continue to grow because of how much I want to get better and how much I want it. So
that's awesome. So if you were to describe, like, how would you describe your game? Like, when I look at your highlights, like, you're a ferocious player, man. Like, quarterbacks, if I'm a quarterback and I see you coming around the edge, I am running for my life. Okay, so like, how would you describe your game?
Physical, tough, disruptive player, first and foremost, and then just a relentless player. Like, I'm someone who doesn't take plays off, and when I'm running to the ball, I'm running to the ball to be the one to make the play. So just a disruptive player who doesn't take plays off, for sure.
That's one thing that all the scouts really raved about with you was like your motor, just how hard you ran to the ball. Where does that come from for you?
Really, it was really instilled in me at Ole Miss through Coach Joyner. It's one thing that it doesn't take a skill to run to the ball and have effort. So that's something that is your choice. You either have effort or you don't. So and it's something that can separate you for sure. So that's something that I believe that's how the game's supposed to be played. So
do you see it also as like just taking the long road to get here, and having to set out your tape and having to do all that the hunger, the drive, kind of it's like I got to go full tilt if I'm going to reach the potential that we're talking about, right? Like you're just scratching the surface of what that potential. If you're going to reach that, you got to be running every play. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like doing everything possible to become the best is kind of my mindset. So
right.
When you went through the process, did you think the Ravens were a likely team for you to end up?
Truthfully, I didn't. I didn't talk to them a whole lot. But again, as soon as I saw that call from the Ravens, I was like the Ravens is known for defense and so many great defensive players here. So when I saw it was the Ravens, I was like, I belong here. I want to be here. So yeah.
So where did you think you were going? I got to know the team that missed out.
The Bengals were on me a ton.
That's even better. That's the storyline.
Got him.
So, yeah, I mean, like text, like that's where I thought I was going for sure. And then, it just came out of nowhere, and then
that's funny. So. And I'm curious, your position fit in the NFL. I think is one question, because kind of your last year at Ole Miss, you were mostly hand in the dirt, right? Kind of a 4-3 end.
Yeah.
And here you kind of project more as an outside linebacker. That's your position. Where's your comfort level with that? Where do you ultimately see yourself fitting? Is it both? What is it?
Yeah, I think it's both because. My first 2 years at Guelph was stand up, and then my first year at Ole Miss was stand up, and then just the previous 2 years was hand in the dirt. So it is. I kind of have to go back to kind of the old stuff I was doing, standing up, which is good. So I think I'm versatile in that. Just got to knock out some rust with the stand up, but also the coach has been really great in allowing me to get my hand in the dirt sometimes in passing situations and stuff like that. So yeah,
Mike likes to get creative, so that's good for you.
For sure. Yeah.
So we got a long way to go before the start of the season and even training camp when the pads come on, and like that's always I think an eye-opening day for rookies when you get out there and it's like, okay, things have gone up a notch. But what would you say is your focus between now and then?
Really just getting the playbook mastered. That's something I'm really focusing on because once that's second nature, I can just play as fast and just focus on football. So continuing to study the playbook every day, and then again continuing to learn from the guys who've been here. Talking to guys like Jabo, Urban, all those guys, they've been here, they've done it. So getting tips from them has been helpful so far, and I think it will continue to be helpful. So.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, last question for me. As I was walking up here to do this interview, I was just chatting with a coworker, and I was like, "Hey, we're talking to Tavius. Got any questions for me?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "I always like to ask players what their like hype up song is." And I was like, well, Drake, right? I mean, he's Canadian, right? So is it confirmed or
a lot of Drake and YoungBoy, but
okay,
both of them, yeah, for sure.
All right, well there you go. My intuition was right.
Yeah.
Well, good luck, man. Good luck with the NFL career and the hockey career. Plucking those pucks. But thanks for taking the time, man.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Big thank you to Tavius for stopping by the SeatGeek studio to talk about his career. Also, we want our listeners and our viewers to know that DraftKings Sportsbook is the official sports betting partner of the Baltimore Ravens and has a limited time offer that you do not want to miss. So here's what you need to do. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today. Use the code FLOCK when you sign up. And then when you do that, new customers can get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000 only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with the promo code FLOCK. So go ahead and get that done today. So really enjoy the conversation with him. Interesting guy, obviously an interesting story, and I hope everyone just enjoyed learning about his path to Baltimore. It's not the one that you often hear.
Yeah.
So
just seems like a good dude, easy guy to root for, and it is kind of crazy. Like you look at his numbers. I mean, he had 7 sacks last year and 5 forced fumbles, which I think was tied for the lead in the nation, most in the nation. And you're like, all right, how does this guy not get drafted earlier? You know what I mean? Like here's a 4th round pick and like big time production at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Right. In the SEC. Like what did I miss here? And it just seems like kind of people and on top of that, it's not like you look at him and you say, oh, well, he's maxed out. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
He's just kind of scratching the surface, like late start, like he's just learning, not just learning the game. I don't want to exaggerate, but like, coming from Canada, like he's adjusting to football at this level, right?
I mean, the arrow seems to be pointing up clearly on him.
Yeah, I mean, the arrow is pointing up on every rookie, you would certainly hope. But like he has a lot of room to grow physically. You look at the body that he's working with, like there's just a lot there to like in terms of the upside, and he already put up pretty good production in the SEC. So, I mean, it just seems like the Ravens got a steal in the 4th round.
Well, the other thing I'll say too is like, when he walked in the room, you're like, whoa, this is a big guy.
Oh, he's a big dude.
He is a big guy.
Yeah.
And so in terms of what you like at that position, and like that, to your question about where he ultimately ends up playing, hand in the dirt, is it right on the edge? Like how do the Ravens use him? I think that will be interesting. Like, is there any way, whether it's this year or another year, where he slides inside in certain packages and plays like the Calais Campbell type role?
Yeah.
I think there could be.
That's what I kind of think. Yeah. I mean,
when I look at him, I'm like, you're a big guy who could fill in there at times.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Like in pass rush situations where they like to get a bunch of rushers on the field, like you could certainly put him as an end, put his hand in the dirt, and still have 2 outside linebackers outside of him.
Yeah.
Ojabo, Owe, Tyus, whatever you want, and now you have some major pass rush potential. I think there's definitely the opportunity for that, even as a rookie. I mean, we saw, Zadarius Smith, the guy that Eric DeCosta compared him to, certainly did that.
Yeah.
Especially later in his Ravens career. So I think that there's potential for that for Tavius.
Well, the other thing too is like, the Ravens are looking for guys to get after the quarterback, and like we've talked about this many times here. There's a need there. As of now, Justin Houston's still out there on the market. And so they may find themselves in a position where they need to make a lot of sack production. Certainly David Ojabo can help do that. And Odafe Owe talked last week about how he expects to have a better season, and last year was a learning year for him. So I think that he's going to improve in that regard. But like they've got sacks to make up for with Calais gone as well.
Yep.
So I think Tavius Robinson, they could use him in some creative packages and find ways for him to get after the quarterback. And if he continues to do what he did at Ole Miss, then that's going to be a pretty good thing for this defense.
And in this draft class, they make 6 picks, 5 of which are going to play this season.
Yep.
Every one of those guys they ultimately see as being a starter and for this year contributing, right? It's not like they're drafting a bunch of, well, yeah, in a couple years, these guys, we'll see what happens. Like with 5 picks, those rookies are going to have a chance to make an impact, and I think Tavius can certainly do that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So we want our listeners and our viewers to know that you can listen to all of the media availability that takes place in this building. There's a lot of press conferences that are always happening around here, so you can make sure you check out those full press conferences. They live on our site, our app, our YouTube channel, but also we have the new Ravens Press Pass podcast feed. So all of those are in the Press Pass podcast feed, so head over there if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to that feed. Also leave a rating and a review. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the Lounge podcast feed
if you and our YouTube channel. What are you doing? If you're listening to this and you're not a subscriber,
basically, if there's a subscribe button, if it's on YouTube, if it's on one of the podcast feeds, just hit it. Just hit subscribe.
Yes.
Wherever you are. And as always, you can email us at thelounge@ravens.nfl.net. We love hearing from you guys. OTAs are taking place this week, so it's going to be a good week here. So we will follow up with you later this week with some insight into what's happening out there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll talk with you again soon.